And I had these dinners with strangers, mostly people in the Chicago art community. This is the last of the 6 dinners. I over-invited just to make sure that I had 6 people, because sometimes they wouldn't show up. Everybody that I invited ended up coming over, so it's kind of crowded on this last dinner. I just did really common sort of domestic things. It was nothing eccentric, nothing strange. It was really what I promised that I would give them. But these things kept multiplying in size, these dinners. Galleries would ask me to do them. I was invited to do them in art spaces and galleries. Eventually, I was invited to be part of the show called Risk. It was about social practice in Chicago. And I thought to myself, what would be more riskier than having a wedding? Because I always thought I thought of myself in doing these dinners as sort of a wedding planner. So I said, what would happen if I did a wedding and I invited 150 people to come to a wedding that didn't know each other and they didn't know the bride and the groom? So that's what I said. And I want to, I'll read: a wedding to an unknown couple with unknown guests at an unknown location. If you are interested in attending, please respond in the manner you see fit. Otherwise, disregard. This is me at City Hall. I had the idea to do this, so I had to follow through. I had to find a couple. So I went to City Hall in downtown Chicago, and I stood outside of where newlyweds came out, and I was offering this free reception because this was funded through the Joyce Foundation. This show got a huge grant, so I actually had money to make this a semi-elaborate wedding. I won't talk about how I found the couple, but I did find a couple. This is them cutting the cake. I invited artist friends to do the programming, and I invited people that made sense. So I have this friend who does this wedding cake project. It made sense that I should invite her to make the wedding cake she recreates her wedding cake to alleviate bad memories of her wedding, not of her marriage, of her wedding day. This is the bride's father and the groom's mother. And I had a wedding photographer, of course. And this picture I really like for some reason. This is the Collective Cleaners, a group in Chicago that cleans. That's what they do. And I invited them to do the cleaning, but they also wanted to do this cleansing ritual where they put a drop of wine on the plate, and then they had each of the guests wipe it off. And of course, there was dancing. Like, people had the urgency to dance, even though they didn't know each other, they didn't know the bride and groom. There was this really strong desire that I was sensing in the audience to dance. So I actually had the guests help me move some tables out of the way, and it was this crazy dance thing that took place. This is that's the placemats of the table with one of my signature paintings on the front of it, and the program on the front of it as well. But on the backside, there was a surprise song that people were invited to sing collectively. It was a song about being in a collective situation to the tune of the chicken song, the chicken dance. All right, so I want to end by showing these things. Because this is the idea of this talk is home as residency. I never am able to go on residency, so I have to sort of create my own residency situation. In Spain, I had to do it and put it all on credit card. Here we were in the mountains, and we got this calendar from a little shop. So I held it up against the real mountains in Spain. And then this is 5 years later. This is this past summer. My friend, her grandmother passed away, and she invited us to, she was thinking about creating this residency in her grandmother's home in Nebraska. I was excited when she invited me to be the inaugural artist. I didn't realize how boring Nebraska was. And I got this like at the Welcome Center in Nebraska. I thought that's what it was going to look like, and it didn't. I guess I'm giving you guys prompts of how to create your own residency. Do what the locals do. Play the local sports. This is us playing soccer on the mountaintop in Spain. this is us playing baseball in Nebraska 5 years later. This is my children watching Disney Channel. This is watching Disney in Spain in our expensive rented apartment that I put on credit card. I'm always interested in how the kids watch TV. You know, the intensity with which they watch TV is sort of the intensity that I wish that people would give towards my work. Here we were in Nebraska watching the sunset. So, you know, be observant, I guess, is be observant of your environment, aware of your environment. This is my daughter in the fields of Spain. You can't even tell it's Spain. It looks like Illinois. She has an Illini shirt. So this is 5 years later. In Nebraska, my daughter looking at the grasshoppers in the field. And then in Spain, play with the things around you. You know, play with the things that are around you. Here, this is a piece that I made. I make these things that I call domestic monuments, where I take the furniture that's around me in people's homes and I create these temporary sculptures. This one, my wife got into the routine of hanging all the clothes because they don't have dryers in Spain, and I got in the routine of making these sculptures. And here's where our two worlds collide. And this is titled New Routine. And then this is in Nebraska. She intended for me to create one of these pieces in her grandmother's house, and it just wasn't happening until an hour before I left. I hung her chair on the doorknob, and I realized that it looked like it was floating, and even more so by putting this light in front of the doorknob. This is titled Chairlift for Kara Megan Lewis, which is the name of the granddaughter. And then this piece, this is outside. This is in a show in Elmhurst at the Elmhurst Art Museum. I had a show where I made monuments. I visited the home of Elmhurst residents, and I made monuments through home visits. They would give me a tour of their house, and they would say all this stuff, and then I would be set off to make monuments. And this woman, Carla Castle, she, her husband collected antiques, and then he died of cancer. And she wanted to sort of like get rid of all the antiques in the house just because she didn't want to be reminded of that situation. So these are some of the last antiques that still she still owned, and these are new light fixtures that she purchased. And I decided that I was going to put them through the chairs. And this one's titled Light Load, and yeah, I mean, what's amazing is that for me, these things are just aesthetic decisions that I make to make beautiful sculptures. And then, but there's always deeper implications for the owner of these objects, which is amazing because I almost become like a therapist, but I don't have to. I just have to make stuff. My daughter, she had issues. This came up in another presentation that I gave in Colorado recently, but somebody asked how it was for my kids to take art classes. What kind of situations did they bump into with their teachers? And sure enough, like my daughter had a lot of conflict with, I never get in the way, first of all. I never say anything about how their teachers teach art. I like for them to have their own experience when they're in school, but she would have conflict with her ceramics teacher, and she actually wrote a song based off of the situation that she was going through, and it actually also has to do with the moon, so I'll stop talking and I'll just let her perform that for you. I should add that my son is here accompanying her with the trumpet.
I don't want to have to break the rules, but it seems like there's no other option. I don't want to make anyone mad, but it seems like I've already gone too far. Can I fix this? Is it fixable? What do I need to fix in the first place?
I don't even want to talk.
Yeah, Thank you so much. That was amazing. I'm gonna go straight into Kristen's information. I can't connect that. There are no words. Kristen is gonna talk to you about her ceramic sculpture. She brings her family into her work in a completely different way than Alberto and Lenka, that is just as beautiful. Kristen lives and works in Cleveland, Ohio, where she graduated with a BFA from the Cleveland Institute of Art. She's completed numerous residencies and has been the recipient of fellowships, such as the Ohio Arts Council Individual Artist Fellowship. She has 2 works in state of the art. She is the mother of 2, the wife of 1, and the baker of many cupcakes and sweet treats.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so jealous of your family. I shouldn't say that because my parents are here, and I'm really, really grateful. I love you. You're amazing. Woo! Woo! So, okay, I got to get my clicker. So, no, I'm jealous of Lenka's family, too. I'm jealous of everything. I love being here, and thank you to everybody at the museum. It's been so amazing to learn more about all the work and the artists in the show, and to interface with you all, the public and the artists alike. So anyway, I am from Cleveland, and I have an amazing life myself, so I'm going to share some of it really quickly with you. So what is this work-life balance? I have no idea, but that's my dog Oscar, and he is the master of it. So he's on a raft in our pond at our farm. I am from Cleveland. This is a little bit of my background. I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art and graduated in ceramic sculpture. And home is always a place where I am at the moment. I've been graced with this incredible family and a sense of home that just travels with me. So wherever I am at home. I feel loved, and I love what I'm doing, so I'm really lucky. I was at the Kohler Company after CIA, after the Institute of Art, and after a brief time with a wonderful man who I ended up marrying, and I'm still married to 23 years later. About a few weeks after we got married, I left for 3 months and went to the Kohler Company and worked there for a while, so that was my home. I made beautiful pieces in a beautiful factory that was accustomed to making plumbing and toilets and sinks. And so I inhabited that space fully and researched sort of Rosie the Riveter, how she would have felt in those spaces, and the domestic realms of those women and their work realms. So this is a piece that's about my size. So I love working in human scale. So the back and the front are very, very different, patriotic. This is from that era. I went back to Cleveland. I went back home, and was with my husband and my dogs again. And things started coming off the sewing dummies, and my aprons in the studio became aprons in clay that would inhabit their own space. My grandmother had 9 children, so my mother is the oldest of 9, and she always had a fabulous apron on, and I see these as the aprons were feminine armor for me. So the inside of that is plated steel, and the outside is ceramic. Loving my grandmother's wardrobe my whole life, I made a whole series of life-size dresses in clay that were empty. So there was like a sense of presence of absence and a loneliness about the objects. So then I was married 6 years, and I had children. And I completely freaked out. I was so unprepared. I felt like 6 years was a long time, but this was the first piece I made after I had the baby actually come out, and they're worry jars, and I was terribly worried about health and safety in the center, travel, my husband traveled, and home, and even the travel down the stairs with the child. I was positive something tragic was going to happen. So I would actually literally write my worries down, and these flowers are stoppers. They're all one piece. So I would write my home worries down, et cetera, and put them in there and stop them up because I was completely neurotic. They felt it. They felt that I was a neurotic mother. Those are the kids a long time ago. And this is sort of still how it is 16 years later. I love them. I loved having them, but I was so gravely unprepared, I felt. Even though I was the oldest daughter of 7 children and had lots of experience in that, I still felt uneasy and just always kind of working at how do I fit? Am I being a good person? Am I being a good mother? Am I being a good artist? This is another early piece after I had the kids, and I was literally the brick house. It's about this big, and I felt sort of prostrate like that, but I also felt really strong. So it's called Keep Up and Let Go. I was literally their house that they lived in when they were growing. I've made teapots my whole career in ceramics, and they're always life stage teapots where I am at the time, so there's no place like home, and they all really pour and function. The bride, she looks fabulous, but she was definitely all about the cake, and that was actually my husband. I was not the bride. And then the housewife, she's gained a little weight, and she doesn't even wear her wedding ring anymore. When I had the kids, my work sort of changed into more playground objects and things that were much more relevant in my life. So they became much more about what the kids were playing with and what I was seeing on a day-to-day basis. We renovated a house, and this is the first piece, that major house piece called Moving On after we finally moved from there. My studio was at that house for 9 years in the backyard, so it was wonderful to be there and be able to work. But these are my inspirations on a daily basis still. My kids, my dogs, my husband. I didn't show him. He's too handsome. If I showed him now, you'd stop watching me. So these are a couple pieces that, this is called Back and Forth, and Play With Me, being the king of your castle and being a little bit on top of things and really owning that whole back and forth of marriage and being the mommy. So something I absolutely freaking love to do is bake and make people happy with food. It's like, it's completely, it's just inordinately satisfying to me. I just love it. So I made a whole series of pies that were hot pies, and this one says, no matter where I serve my guests, they always like my kitchen best. So I do struggle with that dichotomy, that wholesome girl dichotomy, wholesome woman. And I also, I want to be the sex kitten too. I want that whole thing. So I put these pies on the wall and they're ceramic. And there are some wholesome pies too. But this is my, my inspiration, that moment when Nellie, my daughter, is about to blow those candles out. Oh, hell yeah. I look for that every day. To be that joyous and to be that excited about life and about the next thing coming and to make a wish it's my dream as an artist. I'm so thankful that I get to do what I get to do, but those moments are what really, truly inspire me. This is another apron about 10 years after the other apron series, and it's called Swept Away. So it's another life-size apron that you could sort of step into, and it's a midden on the back, so it's like a trash heap, things I had to sweep away, being the mommy and, not being a professional dancer anymore. I never was. And not being a singer and not having that other rock star career. So it's like a midden in the back. There's a million objects. But being the one that has everyone over for dinner and loves to entertain and do all that stuff, and sometimes I do compromise studio time for that, but I think it only enriches my studio life. Juicy, right? Do you guys remember that? I remember all those moments, like when I was thinking that wish was really gonna come true. So that's her girlfriend in the background. So I live in Cleveland, and I work at this factory. I work in a screw factory with my mom. So my mom works in the same studio as I do, and I work with 4 other women, which is incredible. And this is sort of a cupcake series I made after the pies. This one on the right is called Home Sweet Home, and there's no way out of that picket fence. So there's a little bit of a dark side to all of this. But I laugh at it, and I say, yeah, bring it on, baby. So this cupcake's about this big. Popping the question, this is one of the Ring series, so the question obviously is what's for dinner. Everyone, at about 6 o'clock at this 5:30 at the studio, everyone's cell phone's blowing up, all the women, and the question's the same, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? And this is a giant ring, it's called Say I Do. It's a big, juicy, have your cake and eat it 2-piece. So the cupcakes got bigger and bigger, and so did the cakes, and the piece in the center is called the Dirty Dozen. It's about 3 feet high. There are 12 cupcakes that say very nasty things on them, but they're all really sweet and delicious. So, and that's how it gets, right? You're just, yes, honey, I love you, honey, yes, yes. Yeah. Can I get a timeout? That's one of them. These are all pieces from that series. People say, I love your scale shifts. I'm like, scale shifts, backyard all the time, right? We all see it. I love this one of Nellie and her glamorous backyard pool. So this is a piece that shortly followed that. It's a salt and pepper shaker, and called Just Ducky. That's about to spill over. In 2009, I got hit by a truck, so my life was threatened. I was walking, and a truck just hit me. And I ended up in the hospital, and my sister came to the emergency room. I was on a backboard, and I couldn't move. And she said, oh, thank God you have lipstick on. I know, right? So I'm always like, okay, my sisters are there for me. So I had to take that summer off. I couldn't work, and I couldn't run, and I couldn't do yoga. So I was basically a crazy person after I got off the OxyContin. And so we took a train trip. I took my parents across the country and my kids and my beautiful husband, and we took a train trip to Glacier National Park. We're like, what else are we gonna do, right? Mom's crazy. So we took a train trip, and I had my sling on until about 20 minutes before this, and then I was like, whatever, if I die now, whatever. So, and my parents, who are right there, were in that picture. And I think they were like, what were you, 68 or something then? Yep, so they're they're hell yeah people too. So, obviously. This is the first successful piece after I got hit by the truck. They did call me the careful queen before I got hit by the truck because I was always super telling everybody, don't share lipstick, watch out for trucks. And then that happened. So this is a piece about that. So even the umbrella is glass. It's a whole set of, very layered contradictions. So this is hurry up, let's go. I felt like after I got hit, everything got better in my life because I appreciated everything more. And I made better work, and I worked more, and I loved more, and I cooked more, and I did everything just more, exponentially more. My sister, one of them, got married, and she said, will you make my wedding cake? And I almost died. I was like, yes, I'm so excited. So I literally took about 2 weeks off and just made the wedding cake, and wasn't it all gone? There was like 250 people, not a slice left. It was amazing. So that was one of my things that feeds right back into the work. So we have this space and time to share. My family has a farm, and we live in Cleveland, and that's the goat at cocktail hour for real. The goat is a fiercely protective guard goat. It guards my mother. But we share time and space, and the work just seamlessly evolves. I work at the farm. She works at the farm. The farm works in my studio. There are some times that are kind of crazy and difficult. This piece is called Underwater, which our house was after I got hit. It was crazy. Scale shift again. My son turned taller than me when he was 11, and I had to give the sex talk for the 38th time. So I made some parenting trophies because he went away to horse camp with 17 girls and just his best friends. It was 2 boys, 17 girls at horse camp. So this is called, this is the first parenting trophy, and it's called Fill in the Blank. And if you want to go to my website, you can read it. There's no dirty words, it's no swear words, but it's very explicit. And this is called Bird in the Hand. I make wedding rings sort of whenever it just comes up in my career. And I love just the rings they're all supersized. And I just love that history of where they fall into my life. This is actually our donkey, and he is so beautiful and makes the best sounds. And scale shift again, my daughter and a tiny little dog that she walks in Manhattan. Uh-oh, I used that thing, Lenka, yeah. So here's my donkey again, and it's in the gallery. And so people say, where do you come up with all these animals that represent parts of your life? They're in my life every day. So this piece is a gorgeous, I love this piece. It's called Seemed Like a Good Idea at the Time. We bought a house in the city. Our school system sucks. We thought they would fledge before we had to actually, pay for private schools, but that's a great piece. So the things I'm worried about now, Lenka's, the things you took out of your kid's mouth, yeah. I used to worry about that, not so much anymore. I'm more worried about what he puts into his mouth, that's like, and what, so loss of innocence, yes, and this is a big piece too. So it's called Welcome, Friends. This is called Still Here because I really do want to be that person and that place and that home. I want to be still there. I want to be the campfire that they come back to but can leave. I want to have that feeling that my parents created for us, that safe space, and I think it can be anywhere, just as long as that foundation is there. You guys have seen, hopefully, this piece. We're going to need a bigger boat. I have teenagers. My teenagers are not so nice to me all the time, so, but they're amazing. So this is another wedding ring called Beacon. I'm working on some Pinocchio, Big Fat Liar pieces. This is called Unfinished Dreams. My mom's work is here. This is a large piece, maybe 3 feet high. And so this is what I'm inspired by. She works next to me every day that she's in the studio. And I'm reminded by her, not her really, but that's my piece on the right. So there it is. We have to constantly remind ourselves of that. My life is so full and amazing. I live on Lake Erie, and every day I swim the dogs unless it's too cold. And the kids come down to the lake. And that's right on our path at the lake. And they make my life so much more intense and so much better because I take the moments and I appreciate them and I love them. They are in the studio with me every day, the dogs are. The kids are reluctantly most of the time, and my mom is. This is called failing upward because sometimes I feel like I'm failing at all of it, but at least I'm moving forward and I think I'm getting somewhere. Oops. How do I go back? So the realities of protecting my children now are much different, moving into this era. And I'm still fiercely protective of them, but am really trying to let go of some of that control. This is a recent piece called Mother, and those are big bears. They're just very big on the wall. And some shot glasses, because I definitely drink. That's how I get through all of it. So Mama Bear has the biggest shot glasses, are all functional. And like I said, those set of worries that, like, the not choking hazards anymore, but is that my tequila that's gone now? So that is, the piece on the right is called It Was Hard to Get Out of the House in Those Days, but that was a question mark at the end, because now it's much harder to get out of the house, because we have to take a photo of the liquor cabinet, and, you know, it's so, sorry about that. My kids are really a part of my practice too. They help me make, if I have to make flowers, if I have to make 1,000 flowers, they'll support me and help me. This piece is a very recent piece called How To, and it's my new sort of meditative way of trying to be less controlling with my teenagers, trying to be more just there in the moment and just enjoy them and enjoy life and enjoy the moments that I'm in. That hangs on the wall. This is me leaving the studio at about 7 at night and thinking, holy crap, I have an amazing life. That's my studio in a screw factory. It's really grungy and disgusting and gross, but that's what I see when I leave. It's so beautiful. And this is what I see when I get home. And I'm so lucky. That's the beautiful man and and my beautiful daughter in the backyard. And they can't be here right now, but they're here. And I want to thank especially my parents, but everyone here for being such a great part of this home. So when I came, like yesterday or whatever it was, I was like, oh, I'm home. I love it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kristen. That was wonderful. I want to thank all three of you for working so diligently with me and with other members of the Crystal Bridges team, not only to have your works in this exhibition, but also to plan your respective workshops with me, as well as this symposium. You guys have each been wonderful to work with. We had a workshop last night with Lenka that was really great. It was about objects that are dangerous and encountering those. We felted scissors. Went really well. And tomorrow, Alberto is actually giving a workshop with his family. So if you're interested in being a part of a little bit of what you saw today with his daughter and son, that's going to be from 1 to 4 tomorrow. And Kristen and I are going to be working together in December. We're going to be putting on a youth workshop and an adult workshop on the 20th and 21st. And I've been thinking a lot about the topic of this panel and preparing for the symposium. And earlier, we've had a really amazing week here at Crystal Bridges. We've had, I think, maybe 14 lectures. We've had many artists here, and my colleague Sarah Siegerlund has been working tirelessly with those artists and to bring them to all of you and to share their works with you. And I was lucky enough to be able to participate in a question and answer session with the prominent African-American artist, Kerry James Marshall. Some of you may be familiar with his work, some maybe not, but if you're not, you may have seen he has a large-scale painting that's part of our collection. It is not up right now because it's usually in one of the galleries that State of the Art is currently occupying, but it's titled Our Town. And Kerry was a fantastic keynote lecturer to have here, and I was very lucky to be able to have that small discussion with him, but we really, got in a little bit of a debate, our education team with Kerry, and we were discussing the importance of personal life in artwork. And some of us posed questions to him, and he is very outspoken and asserted that he did not feel that there was a place for personal life in artwork and that his artwork was a heavily research-based practice. And I'm just interested, due to the topic of our panel, of what, if you guys have sort of a response to Kerry's kind of opinion and where you stand on that kind of question of the role of personal life in art. There's microphones right there. Just click it on.
place I could come from authentically than where I am. So for me, I think maybe his work is just so different. And for me, if I'm going to speak about something, it's about something I'm going to know. And if I'm going to investigate something deeply, then I have to own that, you know what I mean? And so for certain, I think it's an individual thing, but I could come from no other place.
Yeah, it's funny when it took me a minute to sort of think about that because I had this
Yeah, that's
image forming in my mind when you asked the question. It was like an image of myself trying to sort of talk to somebody, and then my two children like tugging on my jumper and being like, "Mummy, Mummy, what does this mean?" And so I think I've maybe tried to like separate my personal life and my professional life, and it just hasn't worked. It hasn't sort of, like you're talking about authenticity, it hasn't felt real anymore. I think before I had kids, I used to work, I'd have an idea and then I'd realize it somewhere else and then go home again, and there was much more of a separation, but that just isn't able to, it just doesn't exist anymore. So it's not so much a choice, it's just a fact of my personal life.
And I think it could go one way or another. Your work could be personal or not personal at all. I don't think that it's right to do it one way or another. I didn't get to sing for my unscripted 3 minutes today like I usually do, but there was a time that I was recording. I would make up these really bad songs, silly, dumb songs, and usually most of the times I would make them up in response to the kids, things that were going on at the house. And they could be made up anytime, but I realized that there was something amazing about those songs, and that I needed to start to record them and keep them. So I started to do that. And when I went back to listen to these very, very personal songs that came out of very, very personal experiences, the thing that struck me most about them was how universal they were, and how they really had something to say that could sort of, even though that could speak to anybody who listened to them about, life and death and pooping or whatever it was, eating, yeah.
That was great. Thank you all for addressing that. I thought it was very relevant to what was going on and what I was thinking about at the time. So it's nice to hear your thoughts on that. I was also curious, just after watching each of your presentations, and I hadn't necessarily really thought about this aspect of each of your works before, but you all have, I think, a really strong sense of whimsy and even some humor in your works. And I was wondering if you guys could talk about that a little bit, because I think we even all, heard that in responses from everyone here. There was, a nice kind of sense of lightheartedness and some laughter too. So.
Okay, I don't know how to turn this on. I probably talk. I think, is that good? I think you either laugh or you cry, and I would much rather freaking laugh, Oh my God, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about the objects that I collected from my son's mouth, and I think the thing that I was that made me sort of create the collection, or like keep them rather than toss them away, was the way that there was a moment of like real, true, definite horror where I thought he was about to die, and then when he didn't die, it was so funny, and I just thought the sort of that this object became hilarious instantly. I just thought that was so beautiful, and so I think for me, the humor, like I sort of try and search for it and then keep it, like hold on to it and hope that it's somehow that the objects end up sort of imprinted with it somehow, or they carry that sort of resonance, that sort of funny moment with them. So I think I sort of look for it and maybe try and collect those moments in some ways.
I would say that crying is actually a big part of my life. I've always been interested in crying. The idea of tragedy, of sadness. And in terms of humor, like I think I try to present things in a very matter-of-fact way, and I think that those things are very funny. See, people are laughing. And it's sort of like the domestic monuments that I showed at the end. Like, all I need to do is put together things that make sense, and then the piece will do the rest. Like, it'll make people, the connections that I make between those objects will make people laugh, because they could be curious, or they could interrupt our perception or the way that we think of objects. So I think that for me, things are already funny as is. So what I try to do is I just try to put them in the forefront.
That's great, thank you. Well, I'd like to turn it over to the audience now and let you guys pose some questions to these artists. And I will step down and pass the microphone around so you guys can project a little bit as well. Does anybody like to start?
It's one thing to include your child when they're a toddler in an art project because they really don't have any idea what they're contributing to. But, sir, how do your children really feel about being part of art and going to foreign countries? And do you have some reluctant people there?
There are moments where they're very reluctant, and sometimes I do things that I go too far with it, like when we made a Christmas pageant, and I made a video of one of my children in their underwear, and this child of mine, it disturbs him every time. I just gave away that it was one of the guys, one of the boys, but it disturbs him every time that he sees it. There's other times, that some of them will be reluctant, but I think what I try to do with them, I think that it's normal to them that I'm recording something or doing something, but I try not to bring attention to it. I just try to not bring attention to the fact that I'm recording it. Or I like if they act silly, for instance, if they do something that I really like what they're doing, like I won't say anything about it, because usually when I say something like, wow, that's really nice, you should keep doing that, that's when they shy away and they don't want to do it. So sometimes I really have to pretend like it's not happening. That amazing thing, because I want them to also get good at that, and the only way that they're going to get good at it is to keep doing it and to feel comfortable doing it. So I try not to make them feel uncomfortable about it. But yeah, they could tell you themselves they could answer that question also maybe later, but I'm sure they have something to say about it.
Anybody else have questions?
At what point in Otto's eating did you realize that you were going to document the process? Like, was it 5 objects in, the first object? When did you realize you had something there?
I really like that you presume I would have been counting and know that it was number 5. You know me so well. He and I went to Paris for an exhibition, Otto and I, and we'd been traveling. He hadn't slept on the airplane. He was about 15 months old, and we were staying in this empty nunnery kind of place. Anyway, we went into this empty room, and I sat down, and I was so tired, I couldn't speak. I just let go of him, and he crawled around on the floor and then came back over to me and looked up at me with this really happy expression and put this thing in his mouth staring at me, and I was just like, Otto, and grabbed it out of his mouth and found that it was a sachet of rat poison that he had found in the corner of the room. And I completely panicked and threw it in the toilet and flushed it immediately, just wanting to get rid of it. And that's the only, since then, that was the only object that's not part of the collection. So that sort of intense moment of panic kind of alerted me to this moment where when something didn't happen, it's evaporated, and I was so interested in that. And the reason that there are 63 objects is because at a certain point he just stopped putting things in his mouth. So that's the exact number of objects until he tired of that way of trying to kill himself. Not that I know about, no. Mm-mm. No, the question was, did he swallow any of them? But not as far as I'm aware. No. I was very vigilant.
I was gonna direct this question to the women on the panel, but I think that it's just as appropriate for you as well. Do you guys feel a lot of pressure from your families or your communities or society or anything greater like that to conform to traditional expectations of parenthood? And I ask that because it seems so integral to all of your art practices. It is. And, you know, I work in a very creative industry. I wouldn't call myself an artist, but I'm surrounded by women all day long who are trying to be like feminist superheroes and who are trying to like buck tradition and forge their own path. And I really am inspired by how you guys have embraced your lifestyle choices and your parenting choices and how you've integrated your children into your practice as artists. And I was wondering if you had any reflections on any mental or philosophical journey that you've been on to get there, or is it just kind of where you ended up?
I have, is this on? Is it on? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I think my mom was a hippie, so I totally won, you know, coming out of that. And she was kind of the person that we wore overalls for 6 days in a row, and it would be like, whatever. You know, what, you guys are fine. We lived in Manhattan. You went to the Museum of Modern Art, so close your mouth, you know. You don't need new clean clothes and a fancy whatever and the new who's what's it. And so I was lucky, I think, when I had my kids to have been brought up that way, first of all, and to know that, you know, if I'm happy doing what I'm doing, they're just going to have to fit in. Because if I'm not happy, the wrath of an evil, you know, mommy dearest is going to come down on them. And certainly, you know, there's pressure for sure. Like, you know, I'm lucky in Cleveland. There's quite a few artists that are my contemporaries that have children as well. And so those kids all kind of know each other, and they've all got the same, like, I gotcha, you know? You know, we've got eyes on you. You know, they're sort of, there's definitely a different way of being raised by artists. And, you know, and those kids are different. And I consider my mom and dad artists, too, so I was lucky enough to be brought up that way. The pressure's there, but I'm like, who cares? I'm not, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I take my kids out of school all the time. So earlier when you asked if they complain about being involved in my work, I mean, they get to get out of school. That's one thing. And I have no problem taking them out of school. I think that they get so much more out of coming to school, coming with me wherever I go. But you know, I'm sure that there's people, we have run into people who think that this is not, it's not good, it's not healthy to pull your kids out of school. But one time we went to Boston, and my daughter's in high school, and she was learning about the, you know, all the history that took place, early American history that took place in Boston. But we were actually there. I took her out of school, but we were there, and we got to walk on the Freedom Trail and see those places in real life. So I mean, I think that they're out of school, but whenever that we get to be together like this. We have the experiences that we have are I think I would go as far as saying that even better than school, which is, you know, the more traditional format of how to raise your children. I don't homeschool. I have my best friend, he homeschools his children. I choose not to do that because I also think it's important for them to be in that system, in that structure, and to learn how to navigate through that structure, which is why I had my daughter play that song at the end.
In terms of expectations, I think I sort of, we didn't really like exactly plan to have a family, and so when when that happened, I think I had certain expectations. I wasn't raised by artists. My family are teachers and had a sort of conventional way of earning a living and having a family and so on. So, and like I sort of alluded to a little bit in my talk, I didn't really find a whole lot of role models for women who were, I mean, there were a lot of role models for women who had kids and had nannies or were in school, but I didn't see a lot of role models of people who were really looking after their kids the whole time and working, which may be that I didn't find them, but I didn't see them. So I think for me, the sort of making of the residency was really a sort of familiar format to me, whereby parenthood was not familiar in any way, but the artist residency was really familiar. So I kind of was working through a familiar set of rules with this unfamiliar situation of raising two kids. So it was kind of a trick to sort of make it feel more familiar than it actually was. And I was certainly aware and a little afraid of the expectation that if you are a woman in particular, you can choose to, like, choosing to not have children is a kind of powerful statement toward a career. I don't feel that for myself, let's say, or I don't agree that's the only way, but I was really aware that that was in existence, and I was a little afraid of that. I was afraid of having gone another way and that my career would be less strong or wouldn't have as much space. So it's certainly a lot of, I've been working with that and aware of it. It's an interesting subject to me.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming to our panel on the Home as Artist Residency. And thank you all. Thank you, Lenka
Jeanne.
and Kristen and Alberto.